What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Michelle Renee from IamMichelleRenee.com, and I'm so happy to have you here tonight with a tribe of dope Black women. Listen, from IamMichelleRenee.com. Sorry, I got some feedback going on from my phone. We've got a lot to talk about, and without further ado, I'm going to bring our panelists to the platform to get this thing kicked off. Thank you for joining us. Rest in peace, Prince Rogers Nelson. Today is the anniversary of his death day, so I'm rocking my purple rain today because I absolutely love Prince. But we are going to do the thing today and bring it on in because Black women are tired and we want to talk about it a little bit. All right, so first up we have our regular panelist, attorney Tamika Bennett. Hey Tamika, how are you?
Hey y'all.
So glad to have you. I love that headband. It's really, really cute. Walmart. We are not giving free promo to Walmart. But you can get that headband at Walmart. Glad to have you, Mika. And guess who is awake tonight? Y'all, Deidre in the building. What's up, Dee?
Good evening. Good evening. How are we doing, ladies?
Good.
We're doing good, sis. We're so glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see y'all. So glad.
Listen, I'm happy to have you. I don't even know what to say, Dee. Like, everybody, Deidre Willis is a certified financial planner, and she is truly a dope Black woman, y'all. Dee, tell everybody a little bit about what's been going on with you lately, what you do, okay, and where you're reigning from right now.
Okay, let's see how much time we got. I'm gonna give my 60-second commercial. So good evening, everyone. Again, I am Deidre Willis, the only Deidre Willis that's out there. But no, I am a certified financial planner. I'm a financial advisor and practice owner. I'm affiliated with the Northwestern Mutual Wealth Management Company. So essentially what's been going on in my world is a little bit of everything from just maintaining the practice, really working to bring people where they want to be from a financial standpoint, working on growing wealth, and even allowing God to bless me. I've been getting some recognition, which I'm truly humbled by and blessed by. And it's really a testament to operating in purpose and allowing him to use me. So when you serve others well, God would truly serve you. So I'm thankful for that opportunity as well. Right now, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work with everyone across the country. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Deidre Willis, the only Deidre Willis, the one and only. So happy to have you. Attorney Tamika Bennett, tell us a little bit about what you have going on and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, about that. I'm a crazy person magnet. So crazy people love me. And they come and see me and I help them solve all their crazy problems.
I love it.
They married the wrong person, or they have unruly children, or they need to plan for their future to make sure that their kids that are crazy, that don't get along, don't kill each other.
Wow.
And in the event that they do kill each other, I also practice criminal defense.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are so happy to have both of you. We have McKee who will be joining a little bit later if she makes it on. But we just want to take a few moments to talk about everything that's been going on. Last week, normally if we don't go live, we don't have a tribe. It's because I'm like, okay, guys, we're not going to go live next week or whatever. But literally, as everything was being planned, I was so fatigued and just exhausted, and I had no words for it. But everything in me was like trying to press and go forward. And so as I'm trying to build my stream, trying to get all my technology together, Facebook wouldn't even allow it. It was like, we can't upload this. It was saying it was going to program. It wouldn't do it. It wouldn't send a link. It wouldn't do this thing. StreamYard started sending emails and saying, hey, we're trying to work to get this together. And I was like, I quit. I'm done. I'm already tired. I can't go any further. And so I sent the tribe a message. I was like, y'all, I love y'all, but I just can't. I cannot. I don't think I sent a whole bunch of words. I was just like, I can't. I'm too tired. I can't function. Tamika reached out. She was like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm tired. Deidre was like, get your rest.
No.
Rest.
I didn't read the message. So my retarded self logged on, and I was like, what's going on? We're not doing this today. You were like, no, I'm tired.
I was like, I can't. She was like, all right. I was like, I can't. But we ended up talking the next day, Mika. We ended up talking Thursday, and I just kind of gave her a rundown of what was going on. And the reality is, like, we are just tired as a people, as a group, as a demographic. Black women are tired. And I read somewhere where someone was like, take the rest that your ancestors weren't privileged enough to take. And I agree, but we feel so guilty about resting, about not doing anything and being unproductive. I feel guilty sometimes. Tamika's like, I find myself like really struggling to turn it off, to turn it down. Yo and I were talking earlier today. She's like, you always got something going on. You got this. I said, I find myself keeping myself busy because busy time is my only time I get to be alone. So I have to be busy doing something so people won't interrupt me, but I'm never not busy, if that makes sense. And I don't want to be that way because I feel like you become, what's the word? Like weary and well doing. Like you're trying to do good things, but you can't even do that well because now you're just exhausted. And it's like we don't feel that freedom to go and do nothing. I was thinking the other day, I was like, I've enjoyed this time with my little one being at home because she's entertaining, she's funny. I said, but you feel guilty when you're not as productive as you need to be, right? And it's all these different levels of guilt, but we need to normalize Black stay-at-home moms. We need to normalize Black women being at home and being comfortable with hanging out with their kids and not doing anything, right? That's something that we haven't gotten comfortable with, is normalizing rest. And we end up being on the front line fighting for everybody, protesting on everybody's behalf, going to bat for everybody, but nobody's going to bat for us. And it's exhausting. I see you smiling, D. What's on your mind?
Let me just first say, it is great to be a Black woman. First and foremost, it is amazing to be a Black woman and the beauty of all that we carry and who we are. I think it's okay to have ambition, to strive, to push, to even be exhausted sometimes. But I think what we have to do is take the cape off, and more the cape of expectation, because the reason why there's exhaustion is really because either it's self-imposed, because as you just described, Michelle, thinking that we have to constantly be doing something to feel as though we're productive, and that's not really being productive. But I believe it's nothing striving for excellence, operating in excellence, doing all those things, being able to balance. But I believe it may be someone else's expectation that we allow upon ourselves that give us that sense of being tired, or even thinking that, hey, if we take, quote unquote, the easy way out, we're not deserving, or that's too easy to do. If someone can assist or someone can help, or the load can be a little bit lighter, we just got to be mindful of those things. So I was just thinking as you were speaking.
I agree. And then, I absolutely agree.
Just to play devil's advocate, you don't always have to look at it in a negative form, because I always look at it like the Bible says, we all got a role. We all have, it's one body with many members. And that just may be our role, that we are the defenders. That may be what we're here to do. And so we do it well. And yes, it can be exhausting, but when you're operating in what you're created to do, it is what it is.
Which we were created to be. I agree with that. That whoa, man. You know what I'm talking about? Like, first and foremost, all the things and all the great things that we're doing, it is truly being true to self to make sure we don't miss the boat in whatever it is that we decide to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I hear and I agree with both sides. And that's the good thing about it. Is like, one, I would not pick another demographic to be a part of. When I tell you I love being a Black woman, like, I love it on the next level. Being a Black woman is my jam. I love it. And I do feel like we've been given this task, been given this joy, this treat to come in and cape for everybody, because we have the capability of doing it. But we also have to honor ourselves and resting when it's time for us to rest. Y'all, we cannot keep going until we welcome our girl McKee to the stage. What's up, McKee?
Hey
How are
guys,
you?
I'm good. How about y'all? Sorry for my tardiness. I'm just jumping off another Zoom call.
You
It's
are right
okay.
on
We're so
time.
glad to have you right on time, baby. We're talking about, Black women being tired, and tired meaning just exhaustion from doing so much, for supporting so much, for being the go-to for everything, for being the person who's called on but also abused in a lot of ways. I think one of the things that I wanted to point out is that in the midst of everything that's been going on in the world, as we approach almost the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd being murdered, and then here we are at what I'm not even sure is a victory or whatever we want to call it, but we are at this place where Black women have been going hard, from day one of wanting to see this fight, but also having that tone of saying, let us not forget about Breonna Taylor. Let us not forget about, these other Tatiana Jefferson, and these different women who have kind of been pushed to the side, but their murders have been equally wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We look at that and it's like, it's exhausting, because it's like, we have value too. Like, look at what we're doing. Look at what we do for our communities. Look at what we do for our families. Look at what we do for our men. And it's like, we just, at some point, I can speak for myself. I won't say I won't speak for the entire demographic, but I will say I sometimes want to see, what does it look like when somebody cates for us? You know what I'm saying? I want to see people cate for Black women as hard as Black women cate for everybody else. And so that, I think that's a part of us being tired too, because it's just like, damn, we've been giving and giving and giving and giving and we've been getting those little those crumbs that Hansel and Gretel left behind to find their way home. That's what we're being given in a lot of ways. So it's a little frustrating, but we're talking about what it looks like and why there's almost like a fear to rest. And Tamika brought to the point, McKee, just to bring you up with, in a way, it's like we were gifted with this thing, this ability to do what we do. It's just like second nature as a Black woman, that you're able to stand against, adversity. You're able to overcome. You're able to fight in a way that other people can't fight. It don't even have to be physical. And we do it so well that it's like, why not do it? Does that make sense?
It does.
What's your thought on Black women and this need for rest that we're not really getting?
I just think that, we as Black women, since the beginning of time, we have just been tasked with handling everything. We have to be everything to everybody all the time. We have to set aside our needs to take care of our husbands, our children, our siblings, our parents, and it's just a never ending battle. I think a lot of times, a lot of women, we put so many things off personally, our health, our mental well-being, because we're taking care of somebody else, and then all of a sudden we have a massive heart attack, or we have an aneurysm, or we have a mental breakdown because we're just worn slim out, and it's like there's nobody there that we feel comfortable enough to pick up the torch for us and give us a break. We just have to. It's just the way things have been. It's like, we don't know how to, or we don't have the luxury of passing the torch or taking a day off or checking out for a minute, because if we do, then something's going to fall apart, and then we're going to have to re-engage and fix it. So
let me tell you something. You better take your time off, because that's like anything else. If you check out of here, it will be somebody else to come in.
that's true.
So you kind of have
Including with
to,
your family and your husband.
yeah. Like, unfortunately, it's the reality. People move on,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing of the matter is that we become so consumed with living up to certain expectations that we can't function properly. And the thing of the matter is that at the end of the day, you cannot be everything to everybody. It's impossible. And when you find yourself trying to do that, at some point you're going to realize that A, you can't do it, and then B, you're going to be resentful because you feel like you're not being validated. And then C, you're going to look at yourself and say, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore.
And I have gone through every single one of those emotions, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
We have to, it's not about changing the narrative. It's really about changing the reality. And that means saying enough is enough. Everything that we've said, everything everyone says is legitimate, down to what we need to do differently. And we just have to continue to operate in that space to say, I have to pause for a minute. And maybe it could be because, when you do things so well, or you have a standard, and I think we certainly, all of us have a standard when it comes to how we expect things. It's hard to trust someone else to come in and do it, but it doesn't mean that they can't. So we may have to really just learn to let some things go, enough for us to also breathe, because it is unhealthy to think that you have to do everything, because that's just not realistic throughout life.
I think it's a sense of control that we have to relinquish. And I can say that I'm learning that. And that was a big struggle initially, because it's like, you do want it to be done right, because you don't want to have to come back and do it again. And so we end up doing a lot of stuff ourselves, because it's like, I'm going to have to do it in the end anyway.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, you know what? They didn't wash them dishes well. Okay, they're going to have to eat off them dirty dishes. That's on them. I'm not going to keep doing this and rewashing dishes that are supposed to have been washed. Or, you know what? They didn't fold the clothes. They're going to have to deal through the basket and figure it out, because I'm not going to keep going through all these different changes. And it's bigger than just like domestic or household things. It's literally, even at my job, I'm like, you didn't understand that? Okay, I laid it out clear as day in the email. So now you just have to deal with the consequences of what's going to happen, the fallout of that. And sometimes that's how you kind of have to go, just with not, I'm going to say not worrying about it as much, because at the end of the day, there has to be some accountability from other people other than us, right? It's like, I always look at people, I'm like, hold on. You get paid XYZ, or your role is over this thing. That means you should know how to do it, right? So why is there this pressure for me to do it if you should know how to do it too? Like, I've done my part, now it's your turn. And so we have to start divvying out and saying, I've done my part, now it's your turn. That's for everybody in life. And I was at that point where I felt like one more thing, one more no or door shut in the face was going to shut me completely down. I needed to rest my brain. I need to rest my body. And I was telling in a group that Tamika and I are in, that I was like, because I wasn't listening to the cues of resting my body, now I have injuries. So it was like God was saying, you are not going to take the cues of me saying you need rest. All right, don't put you on injury reserve. You gonna rest. Hook or crook, you gonna take some rest. Sit down somewhere. And I'm like, I could barely walk. My foot is messed up. Okay, sit down somewhere.
And I would say even the benefits of COVID, like everybody is tired of being at home. Everybody tired of, whatever. But one thing that we all should have gathered from that is that the stuff that we think that we have to do at the end of the day, in the big scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. There are always alternatives to get things done. There are other ways. And I know I was notorious for meetings like all the time. And people ask me, I don't like Zoom sometimes, but to be quite honest with you, I could do about 5 meetings in a day on Zoom and be sitting in my pajamas.
And not feel exhausted.
Exactly. And I'm not ripping and running in my car. I'm not wasting gas. I'm not, just so, if anything, one thing that we should always take, you got to prioritize things. You got to make notes of what you have to accomplish, what you need to get done, set goals for yourself. But if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you just need to take a step back and really just do what you can. But what you can't do, it'll be there if you're there tomorrow. If you wake up the next day, it'll still be there and you can figure it out then.
If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you're already overwhelmed. It's just like we have to catch it before we get to that point, because like you mentioned, if we don't sit down, something will sit us down. And it's one feeling to, I feel like this all the time. So it's probably more of a personal, but if you're starting to feel that way, you need a break. And truth of the matter is, I don't care how much we try to plow through or continue to press. you got to sometimes slow down to speed up. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time, effort, and energy. And so I would encourage us
That
all
is
to think about
so
that.
true. You just hit it on the head, D, because what I found is that my productivity level dropped so low with me trying to push through, and I'm not doing quality. Now I'm just doing to say I did. And I'm like, I don't like functioning like that. I like functioning, like you talked about earlier, in a spirit of excellence and doing things right and making sure things are well. But guess how you get the good stuff? From a rested mind, from a rested body. You can go and push and produce and do amazing things when your body, your mind, and your spirit have been rested and rejuvenated. So I think we have to, like, if nothing else, I want to make sure that y'all take from this broadcast tonight to normalize resting, to normalize leaving Black women alone when you see they trying to rest. That's for husbands, children, and spouses. Leave them alone and let them rest. But really encouraging him. Like, my husband is starting to notice cues when he sees I'm like at my wit's end with certain stuff. He like corral the kids on out the way. He's like, you need to lay down. I used to get offended. He'd be like, if you tired, go to sleep. I was like, first of all, you're not finna 3-6 mafia me. If you tired, be quiet and go to sleep. You're not finna do that to me. Okay. But then I realized, I was like, he don't have the right words for it, but it's done in love. Like, go lay down. Go lay down doesn't mean you need to go to sleep, go to bed. It means go rest yourself. Go lay down. Go take a load off. You know what I'm saying?
From raising children, even toddlers, when they get delirious, you're like, you need a nap.
You need a nap. Go lay down. Because you're getting crazy. I told them last week, I was like, your mom is about to lose it. I need you guys to get away from me. They were like, what? You're going to lose it? Lose what? What are we losing? Do we need to fight? Get away from me. Goodbye.
Leave me alone.
I would be the
but
first.
You know what? Yes.
A nap can cure a lot of things.
D, I know you know. I know you know, D. D gonna get her nap. She gonna get her nap.
I'm telling you.
Listen, that's major. That's major. We need to normalize naps in adulthood.
I know this is completely out of left field. But y'all remember in college when you have like an exam and our stupid selves used to take like no dose.
Writing papers, yes indeed.
Could not go to sleep. That stuff used to have me up for like 2.5 days, and I would be in the bed trying to rock myself to sleep after studying because it was like the worst.
Yeah. Learning bad habits. Those are terrible habits. So I'm gonna try to make sure that I encourage my kids to take naps and rest and just do what we need to do. We're not going to be on here long because I know this next topic is going to be a little heavy, but I want to talk about it because yesterday was a day that's going to go down in history for sure, with the verdict coming out and Derek Chauvin being found guilty on all 3 counts in the charges related to the George Floyd trial. What was your response when you heard it, Tamika?
I actually didn't hear it until like later on in the day because I was like super busy yesterday, and somebody sent the email and was like, oh, praise God, hallelujah. And I was like, what are we praising God for? What done happened? And then the little news, it was like maybe 2 or 3 hours before that the verdict had come out. I didn't even know because I was busy doing other stuff. But the ironic thing was earlier in the day, I was like, it surely is taking them a long time to come back. And as a defense attorney, we always are like, the longer the jury is deliberating, that's good for you. Like, that's good for us. I was like, surely it's taking them a long time to come back or whatever. So that was probably around 10 yesterday morning. And I kind of watched a couple of things on some of the news channels while I was at my office. And then I was like, you know what? Whenever I'm supposed to know, it'll happen. And so I really didn't get to join. It wasn't like when they came back with the OJ verdict and we was like in class and everybody was like, it's like the world stopped. I was still working, so I didn't know.
What about you, McKee? What were you doing? Where were you?
I was at the doctor's office yesterday, so I got a notification saying that the verdict was in before I left home. And so by the time I made it to the doctor's office, they had come out with, he was guilty on all 3 charges. I felt in my spirit that he was probably going to be found guilty. I just felt like this particular situation had been publicized so much that there was no way they were going to let him get off, because people would have burned the city down, and rightfully so. But I was surprised that he was found guilty on all 3 charges. On one hand, I was somewhat happy, but for the most part, I was like, I felt like this was a fluke. I don't see this being the standard going forward, where police officers are going to be truly held accountable for incidents. Somebody's going to figure out a way to make it the victim's fault, and I'm not very optimistic about the future. I think this is just, this is kind of a unicorn, so to speak.
I feel you. What about you, Dee?
So do you guys hear that feedback?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I actually saw the news. Like I didn't see it, I saw it in terms of like a notification that came through. And truth be told, I dropped the mic on this a long time ago. To me, it's 100% clear. I didn't have an expectation one way or the other. I just felt that what was going to happen for justice purposes. So I didn't really have a reaction, if that makes sense. And I've really been trying to guard more than anything my spirit, because I don't want to, once you go through this and you're traumatized and you deal with it, you just don't want to take on anyone else's energy and emotion and all the things that came with everyone having a reaction or response. So it was just really like, you know what? It had already been settled in me what was going to happen was going to be from a justice standpoint.
That's a very mature response, Deidre. For me, I waited with bated breath. Like I held my breath, because we have seen instances clear as day where people were wrong and they were still let off the hook. I think the bigger issue here was that the whole world saw this thing happen. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't this quick second, 20-second clip. It was 9 minutes of film, live footage and 9 minutes of a recorded video from various angles that you're like, this was 9 minutes. And so for me, I was more fearful of what would have happened had he got off. And I didn't want to go through the trauma of that happening. And I was kind of preparing myself like, okay, we've seen these things go south, go sideways. If this thing goes this way, what do we need to do to be prepared? Because it was going to shake the world if it didn't, if justice wasn't served in this manner. And the thing about it is, like, is justice truly served when a person is killed for no reason like that at the hands of a group of people who have on their vehicles and their badges to protect and serve, when it's clear that they're not doing any of that, because they don't stop any crimes from happening and things of that nature. They come after the fact. But for me, it was very disheartening, because you've got this happening, then you've got another killing of a cop, of a Black man days ago. And then yesterday, as this is happening, you've got another killing of a young Black woman. And here's my thing, because everybody will make it seem, and the young Black woman, Ma'Khia Bryant, who was killed by a cop who was in the middle of an altercation. We have seen, because a lot of people say, well, she had a knife and she was doing this and she was doing that. We have seen non-Black people be irate, belligerent, violent, wielding guns and other weapons, apprehended without being shot and killed. But it doesn't happen like that for us. So for me, it's always this heart palpitation, this strong piece, because it's just like, when is this thing end? Because you get justice on this end, and then you still have very unjust practices happening on another end. And so I know there will be no charges against the officer that took Ma'Khia's life because he acted in a realm of protecting those around. But you look at it and you're like, this is crazy, because we've seen active shooters. We've seen people who have gone in and murdered masses of people go in, get Burger King, and go to the precinct unharmed. Unharmed. And so for me, it's like, it really, it doesn't settle with me well. And so for me, it was a sigh of relief that our nation did not have to go through another ring of protests and things like that, because it's exhausting to do that, especially from the standpoint that I'm in right now. But it's like, okay, if I got to put on my battle gear and do that, then you got to do what you got to do. But it's sad that that's that constant battle that's there. So
we lost the host, but we're going to continue the conversation. Tamika, what do you think about what Michelle just said?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had a moment.
Do you think right at where you left off? The hostess stepped away.
Like, wait a minute, what?
Go ahead, Deidre.
No, we'll just give Michelle just a moment of rest, people. She's back now. All right.
No comment for that. No comment for that. That was a moment, but I'm okay. That's when you be going off and talking with your hands, and I was talking with my hands, and I was talking about stuff, and I hit the wrong button, and it kicked me out the studio. So we can like, but that was my thoughts on it with everything that happened, and just having to have another conversation with my children, almost like reliving those things again. So they were excited that they got to see justice, because I can remember being in my home years ago with the George Zimmerman verdict, and just how heartbroken I was behind that, because I felt like that was clear as day that should have gone a different way, and it didn't. But I don't know. It's one of those things where I think a lot of our tiredness comes from the work that we do and the output that we have and the energy that's being exerted. But it also comes from us emphatically feeling what's going on in the world, if that makes sense. Like, we feel what's happening around us. We're moms, and we're wives, and we're daughters, and we're sisters, and we have this natural innate connection as a woman to everything that has life in it, right? So when life is disrupted, or life is cut short or disbanded, it affects us in a way that it doesn't affect most people. So for us, like, that's a different type of feeling. It's a different type of feeling. What were you about to say, Deidre, when I got kicked out the studio, when I kicked myself out?
I was really wanting to get Tamika's feedback on that from a attorney perspective. Everything that you were sharing in terms of, what we saw, and how really it would have been more of a bigger issue, not just the issue of justice not being served, but that would have truly spoken to America as a nation. So I was just curious to hear what Tamika had to say as a follow-up.
I don't necessarily think it would speak to how America is as a nation. I think it speaks to the jury, because you got 12 random people sitting in a box, and it speaks to how they collectively viewed what was presented to them. Because number one, when you practice criminal law, you know that there are certain things that the jury is not going to see, they're not going to hear. So they don't have all of the facts that are available. Just as, they didn't have the facts about Chauvin's past in regards to excessive force or anything of that nature, anything that was overly prejudicial to him, which, most people, if they would have heard it, be like, oh yeah, he's the type of person, he did that before, he'll do it again. People will think like that. And that's really why the rules of evidence prohibits that type of evidence to come in at trial. But I think it speaks to the microcosm of what makes up your jury. And so when you get to, and that's just the component of everywhere, whenever these trials come up, you have to look at the jury makeup. I think in the George Zimmerman trial, because I watched that trial pretty closely, I think I was pregnant with Bree at the time. At that time, I think there was only like one minority or 2 minorities on that jury. So, everybody's operating from their own experiences and their own views of common sense. And so when you have a group that has not been exposed to Black people and their thoughts concerning Black people are that they're violent or they're scary, it's easy for people to fall into the reasonable man standards and hear, he did attack George. They were fighting, so it's possible that George was defending himself. You never know, what pattern they're operating out of. So I say this to say, get y'all butts registered to vote. And when you get called for jury duty, show up and participate.
Ooh, I got excused.
So very sad for you to be charged criminally and nobody on your jury looks like your peer.
Right. I was just talking about that to my husband the other day because I was like, we talk about people being tried before a jury of their peers, but when any of us go before the court, don't none of the people in the box look like us. You know what I'm saying? And I've been called for jury duty twice since I've been here. And every time I've gone, I've been dismissed. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, you mean to tell me ain't no Black women going to court? Because I'm ready to serve. But I want to serve on a jury for my peer. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, when I look out, if I were to commit a crime and have to be before a jury, I need to see some women that look like me. I need some single moms. I need some mamas with a bunch of little toddlers and kids. I need some tired mamas. I need some folks that, work 3 jobs. I need people who look like me and have been through my experiences because those are my peers. People who haven't experienced those things are not my peers, but those are the people who are casting judgment on people who commit crimes. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's frustrating because it's all these things that have been created and this system has been created that eliminates people from being able to participate in that way. Because if you don't have voter rights, then you can't be on a jury. Mm-hmm. If you've committed a felony, then you don't have voter rights.
Well, it depends.
In some places.
On what felony you committed.
True that. So it's one of those things where you have to basically be trained as a small person to be like, okay, I need you to be an upright, standing citizen. Don't make any mistakes. Don't get a bunch of speeding tickets. Definitely don't do this. Don't do that, because you don't need to get in trouble, because you need to be able to serve on a jury. Granted, any of your peers get in trouble. You need to be there to be a voice of reason for these people. But it's like, I feel like the whole system is still just not quite where it should be so that it could be a more fair and realistic system.
Well, the system is designed to do what it does. It's not designed to be fair.
I know that too. It doesn't make it okay.
I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm just saying that that's the reality of the situation. It's not designed to be fair.
That sucks for us because we're the only ones that's being like.
I mean, just like
we're the beneficiaries of it.
In regards to the evidence that they left out, and I think that the judge probably left that out in Chauvin's case because you got a whole video that showed him murdering somebody. So you didn't particularly need that evidence. It would be bolstering. But for instance, if you have a case where a person is accused of rape, and there have been other encounters with other people, and they do let that evidence come in, that's ways the jury. So my thing is that it's unfair, and it can be unfair in different ways depending on different circumstances. So that's why I say that the system, it's not designed to be fair and impartial to everyone. It's a matter of really the type of advocate that you have on your behalf, what they're able to convince the court to not let in. But at the end of the day, a lot of it deals with who's on your jury and who is your judge. Because most judges, I know here in Mississippi, they're elected. And some judges identify with that same type of narrative that you see in Facebook comments, where they're discussing the pandemic and they call it, some type of Asian flu or whatever, and they're making decisions. So you have to know that, you know, they're human, but they're the ones at the end of the day that's going to sentence you to something. They're the ones who decide on motions, that what evidence is going to come in, what evidence is not going to come in. They're the ones who decide if they haven't met the burden of proof as to whether or not they can even go forward with an indictment. That's why it's important that you have not only people on your jury that, you know, resemble you or have similar experiences, you also need to have judges that are really fair and impartial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't disagree at all. Either way, it's disheartening. And I've known the hard reality about like growing up and having the brothers that I have that have made me very knowledgeable my whole life is having this knowledge my whole life. That's a lot to carry. I sometimes wish I didn't know that the world was so unfair, because then I could live a little more blissfully in a lot of ways and kind of ignore some of the things. But that's not a luxury we as Black people, as Black women have at all, to walk around clueless or as if those things don't exist. We have to address it early. And even with talking to my girls, they have to be aware of how they interact, how they respond, things that they do, because this is a world that was not designed for them to be who they are. So we have to encourage them and make sure they understand that they are dynamic and that they are magical and they are capable of doing amazing things, because it can be very disheartening. But we're going to take it as a victory. We're going to take it as a justice being served, as a blessing for his family to not have to sit with the idea that his murderer goes free. So I am glad that for that part, that the outcome was what it was. But that little girl won't get her father back, nevertheless. So there's nothing that's going to bring him back to this space. So, you know, continued prayers for her and her growth on this journey, to having to have witnessed this level of, it was racism. That's what it was, displayed against her father. So, but in closing with that, I'm grateful that I have you ladies that were able to unpack and share these things, because no matter how deep or how frustrating it is, Blair says, as it relates to the sentencing, what is the stipulation when a child is present? Tamika, that might be a question for you. What do you mean, Blair, when a child is present? As it relates to the sentencing, what is the stipulation when a child is present? She says she heard conversation that it could possibly be increased.
I don't know. I'm not, you know, licensed to practice in the state of Minnesota, so I don't know what their enhancements are.
Oh, at the scene. Oh, at the scene of the crime. Okay. If a child is present at the scene of the crime, is that
it may be a factor that the judge can weigh as in determining, because when you get sentenced, they have to weigh several factors. One is your criminal history. They have to, you know, weigh your ties to the community, you know, your background, like if you were in the military, things of that nature, to determine whether or not they're going to give you the toughest sentence or whatever. Now, it's completely in their discretion. They can do whatever they want. So that may be a mitigating factor that, you know, you committed this in front of children, you know, so you're more egregious. But like I said, I'm not licensed to practice in Minnesota, so I'm not sure or familiar with, you know, whether or not that makes the sentencing more strict.
I didn't know it was a child at the scene, but that's even
you
more
know,
disheartening.
The girl who recorded the video, she was 9.
Was she a child?
9.
She was 9.
N-I-N-E.
I thought I saw a picture of her, the young lady that recorded. It wasn't a teenager.
It was a teenager there too, but there was a 9-year-old. She was on Good Morning America this morning. She's since turned 10. She walked to the store with her bullet to get snacks.
Wow.
And
to have to live with that memory.
Her video was the one that the prosecutor used in closing when he was like, you know, this is crazy. He was like, when a 9-year-old called the police and said, this ain't, something's wrong here. If a child can see that something is wrong, then it's obvious that this is not normal or right or should be occurring.
Blair said the max for second degree is 40 years in that state. The max. Said, but can be waived or increased because of her presence. That's interesting. That's interesting. But I didn't even know that there was a child present.
If he gets
I know what it did to me.
How old is he?
He's in his 40s or 50s, is he not?
That's pretty much a life sentence. If he gets the maximum, he's not going to get out of jail. I doubt
he's
it.
He's not going to get out of jail anyway because he's not going to make it. He is 45 years old. And the crazy thing about that, I know what it did to me as an adult watching that video.
She's in therapy. She had a therapist with her on Good Morning America.
And then Brett Favre saying stupid stuff like it's hard to believe that he meant to kill George Floyd. Really, Brett Favre?
Yeah,
go
just
cut
like
some grass.
Take that money.
Go cut some grass and hush. Go cut some grass and hush
because you're
doing
too much. From welfare in the state of
Mississippi. From the state of Mississippi. Please have a seat, sir. You need to not make any statements about anything.
The most ridiculous things.
The feds need to indict him
with no level of respect.
None.
None.
So that's like all the people that say, you know, oh, I've got black friends, and you know, black people, because if you're not genuinely checking on your friends and having empathy about what we are experiencing as a people right now, you don't have black friends. You know black people, and there's a complete difference. And I wasn't even looking for Brett Favre.
And I'm gonna be done with it. Brett Favre, if they are out here, the feds about to prosecute all these people who got this fraudulent PPP money, your tail need to be prosecuted too for stealing. That was federal money that was granted to the state of Mississippi that you partook of, that you should not be able to pay back without facing criminal prosecution. Because had I been the person who stole that money, my behind would be in jail. The end.
Yep. The end. Blair says she cried even without realizing that was hard to watch. And being from Mississippi, you hear about these things all the time, but actually witnessing it is beyond unbelievable. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about just how many murders of this nature have taken place in different ways, but similar. And because nobody recorded it, because nobody had video evidence, those things were a pat on the back or an attaboy, like you did a good job for what you did, getting rid of another one of them. That's the frustration that the people are experiencing, and I'm glad to that degree that we don't have to go through that particular one again. But it just, I don't know, it's a lot, and it's to see, I don't know. People have really shown their true colors when it comes to these types of things. And what we've noticed and what we've learned has been very, very interesting about just people, the nature of who they are and how they operate.
So, I agree 100%. You know, at the end of the day, we can choose to make it a black and white issue, because it is, or a racial issue. But at the heart of it, it's really if you're a Christian, let me say it that way, and you know people and you can relate to people, you would not respond how you respond, first and foremost. I don't care if someone who looks like me, who may even be related to me, if they're in the wrong, guess what? They're in the wrong. And people are not dealing with the fact that the issue is beyond a race component, because even if I don't look like you, but I can understand you, and I'm coming first and foremost as a Christian and speaking to what the word and the Bible says, I'm going to have a completely different response. And so it's really, we have to uncover the true reality is that it's a matter of the heart in most cases.
Yeah, in most cases. And it's a lot of people with some foul hearts, just being honest. And it's disheartening, but I want to know who I'm dealing with at this point. So I know how to govern myself accordingly.
When they show you one time,
believe them.
Believe them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Jasmine. There was a post that President Keenum made yesterday in regards to the verdict, and some of the comments from people were really like over the top. And so Jasmine texted me, and I had an allergic reaction yesterday to something I ate, probably some shrimp. Anyway, I had to take some Benadryl. But while I was taking it, she texted me, is like, I'm tagging you in. So I go in and I see this woman is like going back and forth with her. And so I click on the lady's profile, and she has all these pictures of Jesus, like on the cross, and he is risen, and this. I'm like, how you got a whole post on Facebook full of hate, but all this Jesus on your wall? Like, I just don't understand, ma'am. I'm so confused here. Then she asked me why I didn't believe she was a Christian. I said, I'm like, to myself, I didn't respond, but I'm like, I never said you weren't a Christian. What I said is that unity is of God, and dissension and confusion is of the devil. So maybe you should check which team you're playing for. That's what I said. I didn't say that you decide which team. So you must have known yourself that you're following the wrong.
Well, Tamika, you should use your favorite line. Not today, devil.
Not today, devil.
Not today.
That is Mika's favorite line. Not today, devil.
Not today.
I cannot. McKee, what are your thoughts, son?
You know, I was telling, I think my brother, or maybe it was Kyle the other day, you know, in order for things to change, it cannot start with our race of people. You know, it has to start with, we did not create racism. We certainly cannot end it. It's going to have to change with white people. You know, it's just, it is what it is, you know. No matter what we do, if we protest in a nonviolent, peaceful way, we are ridiculed for it. If we resort to, you know, being a little more aggressive in our approach, you know, we're damned if we do, we damned if we don't. And it's just kind of one of those things that, you know, no matter what we do, it's never going to change anything in the grand scheme of things unless hearts and minds change. Like I was telling my brother, I was like, you're gonna have to deprogram a generation of people before this would ever go away. Like you would have to like almost do a lobotomy on them to reprogram them, because this is what they've been ingrained with since the day they were born, to look at us differently, to look at us as lesser than, to be afraid of us, to always think the worst of us before they even get to know us, to automatically place stereotypes on us, and they know nothing about us. So, you know, I'm not optimistic about it. I'm just not. I've seen too much. I've witnessed too much to think otherwise, you know. Like I said, you know, I was relieved with that verdict yesterday, but I don't see it being the norm. You know, I just don't. It hurts. At this point, it hurts too much to hope.
That's the point that I was making. When
it hurts too much to hope.
I don't know why there's feedback, but following up to your point that you made, McKee, in regards to what has to change is going to have to come from another race. It has to come from almost as if the source, if you will, you have to go back to the root of it all. And that's the point that I was making earlier, not necessarily, obviously, you know, the jury is going to determine, but what I was speaking to is that there was no denying. The evidence was clear. And today, everyone is a journalist. And so you had a 9-year-old who could record, people can clearly see what happened. And so it would have been more of the world eyes on America, as if there's truly, I mean, it will be hard to justify the fact that it was more of an issue of the state of America and racism in America, is the point that I was making earlier. And I think you just hit the nail on the head, McKee. when it comes to change. And it's okay to say white people and black people. We know where we're coming from is making a distinction for the purposes of change. It is not to say, okay, one race versus the other, but if we're trying to make that change, we have to identify who can do that. Absolutely.
That kind of hit hard. It hurts too much to hope, even though I put too many twos. That's a different level of real, because that's exactly how I felt. Like, I am not getting my hopes up about this. I am not thinking about this because it hurts too much. And McKee, you captured that perfectly. I kind of feel like we have closing thoughts, but I'm gonna do something different. We're not gonna close on this because we're not gonna end on a solemn note. We're gonna bring this back up real quick because, as Tamika would say, not today, devil. Not today. Not today. So I want to hear one thing each of you ladies are going to do for yourself this weekend. One thing that you're going to do for yourself this weekend. Oh, everybody's eyes went to the side like, And McKee, you will be so proud of me. I'm 1/10 of the way on my plan to get my stuff together. I got my drawers together. You'd be so proud. I'm going to send you pictures soon.
I cannot wait. I was so proud of your fridge.
It still looks like that. I'm hanging in there. Yes. I'm going to send you the sneak peeks of the drawers tonight so you can be proud again. But what's one thing you're going to do for yourself this weekend, McKee?
I made a hair appointment, so I'm going to get my hair done on Friday.
Okay. Pedicure. I love it. What about you, Mika? What are you going to do? What's one thing you're going to do for yourself this weekend?
I honestly have no clue. Which is sad.
I'm gonna need you to figure something out. That is pretty sad. I'm gonna need you to do that. I'm gonna need you to figure that out. And I'm gonna follow back up with you. The weekend? I don't know.
Is something going
Nothing's
on?
happening. You probably got a baseball game or something. But that's not for you. That's for the kids. So what are you gonna do for you? If you don't look like Deuce. What about you, D? What are you gonna do for yourself this weekend?
Oh, so I was just thinking, what am I going to do this weekend? I do have a spa schedule for next Friday, but this weekend I'm probably going to rest a little bit. I need to regroup. I'll think of something to do. I don't know what that is just yet, but it's going to involve some rest for sure.
For sure. I'm all for that. I think this weekend I want to make some time and go with my friends to the beach and just get to the water, because the water is so healing and it revives you. So I think I'm gonna take it to the water and just leave it all there and hopefully get my spice cabinet organized. That's for me too. I found solace in straightening things. That has never been my gift, but McKee turned me on to something really, really powerful. So thank you, ladies. I enjoy this time with y'all so much. Thank you for honoring your space. Quia, we missed you tonight. I hope you're resting well. Blair, thank you for holding down the comments. Thank you, Yo, for sharing. Thank you, LaWanda. Thank you to all of the tribe of dope Black women, y'all. We love you. Whatever you got going on, no matter what it is, no matter what you do, by all means, protect your energy and protect your peace. Y'all have a good night. I love you. Bye.